All right, so in this video, we're going to briefly talk about how to solve like basic inequalities, and you'll see that the steps are like very similar to solving an equation. Right, we're still going to do opposites to move things around and things like that. The only new step is there's an added rule. I'm going to put a little star next to it. So the only difference between solving an inequality and solving an equation is that if you divide or multiply by a negative number, okay, so if you multiply or divide by a negative number, then your inequality symbol has to flip around. Okay, so if you divide or multiply by a negative number, you must flip the inequality. Okay, and I'll show you that in a couple of examples. Other than that, the steps are exactly the same as solving a basic equation. All right, you're still moving things from one side to the other, trying to get the variable by itself. Okay, so as a first example, let's say I gave you 50 is less than or equal to 8 minus 6x. Okay, and the goal is still to get the variable on one side. So I'm still going to draw that line so you can clearly see a left side and a right side. And then we're going to start rearranging things. Right, there's only one x term, and it's on the right-hand side. So we might as well get the numbers to the left-hand side. So let's start off with that 8. Okay, it's a positive 8, so the way to get rid of it would be to subtract. Okay, same thing goes as with equations. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to both. Okay, so when you subtract 8 to both sides, okay, with our leftovers, we still have a negative 6x, and then 50 minus 8 is 42. Now we subtracted, so nothing's changed so far. But the only added rule is if you divide or multiply by a negative. We haven't done that yet. So our symbol is still less than or equal to. Okay, so now we have to get rid of that negative 6. So the same way we've done with equations, we would get rid of it by dividing. Okay, whatever you do to one side, do to both. Okay, so on the right, the negatives cancel and the 6's cancel. So we have just x. But now we divided by a negative number. So now our rule happens. So our symbol is actually going to flip around and become this way. Okay. In fact, let me use a different color just to make it a little bit clearer. So it's flipping around, becoming that. Okay, and then on the left side, 42 divided by negative 6. You can use a calculator if you need to. And you get negative 7. Okay, and then that's your answer. This is a completely acceptable answer. Okay, now in the previous video, if you're asked to graph this, it might be worth the few extra seconds to take your answer and flip it around so that the x is on the left-hand side. So it's worth rearranging it to look like this. So switch the two sides, but don't forget if you flip the inequality around, you flip the symbol around again. So it's back to being less than or equal to. Okay. The reason why this might be worth that is if you're asked to graph, then you can easily graph this. Right? It has the equal to bar, so it'd be a closed dot, and your arrow would be going to the left. Okay. That's the only new thing for this section. So if you divide or multiply by a negative number, the symbol flips around. Other than that, it's stuff we've been doing. Okay, so you just have to be a little extra careful with the symbol. Okay. I want you to try one on your own. Okay. So go ahead and try. Let's see. Negative x over 5 plus 6 is greater than negative 3. Okay, so go ahead and try solving that one. Go ahead and pause the video and see what you can come up with. And when you're ready, press play to check your answer. Okay, so remember the first that goal is to get the x by itself. So we should probably start off with that 6. It's a positive 6, so we can get rid of it by subtracting it over here. Okay, those cancel out. And we're left with negative x over 5. We didn't divide or multiply by a negative, so the symbol has not changed. And negative 6 minus 3, or negative 3 minus 6, gives you negative 9. Okay? And then now you have to get rid of that 5. Remember, it's already a fraction. This means it's division. So the opposite of that would be multiplication. So to get rid of that 5, we're going to multiply by 5. But we also want to get rid of this negative. Okay, so let's multiply by negative 5. That way the negatives cancel out. And then again, whatever you do to one side, do to both. Okay, so on the left, the negatives cancel each other out, and the 5s cancel each other out, leaving just the x. Okay, but now we've multiplied by a negative, so our rule occurs. So our symbol flips around and becomes that. And on the left side, negative 9 times negative 5. Well, remember, negatives cancel each other out. And then 9 times 5 gives you 45. Okay. And again, if the question says to graph your answer on a number line, all you really need to do is draw a number line. And here's kind of a easy way to kind of make a simple graph. Just draw a graph that has between like 4 or 5 marks on it. Make sure your answer is one of them. So we know 45 has our answer. So one of these little tick marks has to be 45. Doesn't really matter which one. Just label one of them as 45. So let's say I say this is 45. That means this would be 46, 47, and 44. We know our answer is at 45. Okay, and then in the last video, when the symbol is like this, it's an open dot. Okay, if it was this, then it would be closed. Okay, so an open dot at 45. And as long as the x is on the left-hand side, that arrow points in the direction we're going in. Or it says less than, and less than is to the left. So this is what our graph would look like. And that's it. So as you can see, the steps are very, very similar to solving equations. This is also a good review for that, because those are major topics in this course.